All those federal charges for President-elect Trump dropped, dating back to 2020. There's a federal judge overseeing the election case with the January 6th stuff and the classified documents as well. And this federal judge dismissed the charges upon request from the DOJ special counsel, as Donald Trump calls him, the deranged prosecutor, jacksmith, here to help us break it all down, make sense of it all. A friend of the show, legal expert lawyer Jeremy Rosenthal, he was a prosecutor before becoming a defense attorney in Texas. Mr. Rosenthal, counselor, how are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
So who is Jack Smith, and maybe talk a little bit about walk us through the charges that were filed against President-elect Trump, and then we can make our way to maybe how these charges ultimately were dismissed.
Right. Jack Smith is what's called a special prosecutor. The way he's a career prosecutor, always has been, and a former U.S. attorney. And now what's the special prosecutor does, the way that they work, is that they are hired essentially by the Justice Department, and they build kind of what you would call a firewall between the Justice Department and him. And the theory is that a special prosecutor and independent counsel can make decisions independent of the rest of the executive branch, and sort of depoliticize, if you will, some of these types of things. You've heard of special prosecutors or special counsels throughout the years, kind of the same thing. You had the one in the Clinton case, Ken Starr, for instance, is probably the most famous one other than Jack Smith. So in essence, I mean, you've got a real issue because the Department of Justice is the executive branch. And what happens when we have the executive branch who's getting in trouble, right? So how do we deal with that, right? Because there's the potential for self-dealing and saying, well, don't investigate me. I'm the head of all this. Just go away. So there's always these things. Now, you had Jack Smith appointed here in this instance, even though Donald Trump wasn't the president, Joe Biden was the president. Biden wanted to distance himself from these types of decisions, right? Did he do that successfully or not? That's for the public to debate. But that, in essence, is who Jack Smith is. And he's a very good lawyer, a very competent lawyer. I mean, you can criticize a lot of things about Jack Smith, but he knows what he's doing in a courtroom. I mean, the guy's a baller, as we would say, right, at Assembly Hall. He is.
I understand. Yeah, Merrick Garland would not have appointed him to go after Trump if it weren't for his prowess as a prosecuting attorney.
That's right. He knows where the light switches are, right, in the courtroom. He knows how to work that thing. The charges that have been brought against President-elect Trump and to reset everybody. Obviously, there are 4 criminal cases, or were 4 criminal cases against Trump. 2 of them were state prosecutions. One in Georgia that's still sort of in the mud. One of them in New York State, that's the hush money case where they have delayed sentencing indefinitely. And then the 2 that Jack Smith handled, one was the documents case in Mar-a-Lago. In that instance, that's where the FBI came and raided Mar-a-Lago. I think it was 2021, 2022 in there. They had a bit of a tussle between the National Archives, who handles classified documents, trying to get documents back from Donald Trump, and the Department of Justice. Jack Smith alleged that Donald Trump mishandled these classified documents, tried to keep them, tried to retain them. Who knows what, right? We never really got, I don't think, that obviously never made its way to the courtroom, so we don't know exactly the full extent of what those allegations were going to be. The January 6th prosecutions, again, would be Donald Trump's, the accusations against him leading up to the January 6th riot. And activities sort of therewith, right? And that one's a lot muddier, because you also have, well, okay, you tried to bring fake electors, you tried to do this, you tried to do that, and did you instigate this riot? Did you not instigate this riot? That would be the January 6th prosecutions. Now that we have sort of set the table, Jack Smith being the federal prosecutor in the January 6th and Mar-a-Lago cases, those have now all been dismissed. the Mar-a-Lago case actually had been the trial judge in that case, Aileen Cannon in Florida. She actually dismissed those indictments earlier this summer. And she did so under the theory that Jack Smith really wasn't, he was not approved by the U.S. Senate, and she felt that she had to. Now, Judge Cannon, I'm sorry, how much am I allowed to nerd out on this?
You guys are letting me go a lot here.
You can nerd out as much as we've got about 5 minutes left. So I know, and okay. Cannon was a pro-Trump judge, right?
She was appointed by Trump.
Yeah, appointed by Trump. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Right. And right. If depending on your level of conspiracy theory thinking here, some people, I've heard that, he appointed her to be the Southern District because he knew that if they tried to prosecute him, that she might be the judge. Sure. Well, okay. Why not? Right.
There's lots of theories going around. I mean, the theory that Jack Smith was removed, Merrick Garland and DOJ from all the politics involved is also, like they announced they were going after Trump, days after Trump announced he was going to be a presidential candidate in November of 22, I believe. So it's all, to me, it's all like, it's all optics for sure.
Oh, for sure. No, totally it is. And, and I think that what Merrick Garland and what Jack Smith would say would be like, it's kind of like, and these deals do happen where, it's every once in a while. For instance, I'll give you a for instance. Let's say there's a lawyer in town that everybody hates and they think he's a crook, and they go and then the DA says, "Look, I don't want to prosecute you. You're a lawyer. I don't like the optics. I don't like the way this looks. So get your S and get out of town. And if you ever come back here, then we're going to prosecute you." And then the guy says, "Well, we're coming back." The guy says, "Okay, now it's on." So Jack Smith would tell you that that's sort of the face-off that they had with Trump. And then it's like Trump announces it, and then it's the chicken and the egg. And so back to Cannon, and you guys were letting me nerd out, and I really appreciate it. It's very dangerous because there's people driving in Indianapolis, and they don't need to fall asleep. Okay, so right. So when it comes to the Mar-a-Lago prosecutions, Judge Cannon said, "Okay, if you are a special prosecutor, you need to be confirmed by the Senate." And this legal challenge had been made many, many, many times before, with different special prosecutors throughout the years in different cases. Judge Cannon is the first one that really kind of bit on that. And she doesn't have a whole lot of support, even at the Supreme Court, or either at the federal level. So, and really, if she's right, if Judge Cannon's right, then Hunter Biden's off the hook too, right? Because Hunter Biden can say, "This was a special prosecutor and these are no good." So anyway, she dismissed these indictments, and they were on appeal from the Justice Department from this summer, and Jack Smith has dismissed his appeals, which in essence means that her dismissal of the case several months ago now stands. So functionally, we're in the same place, but legally, how we got there, like I said, depending on your level of allowing me to nerd out, and I have had way too much coffee this morning, but.
So we're speaking with Jeremy Rosenthal, legal expert, was a prosecutor, and he's a defense attorney in Texas, helping us kind of understand the ins and outs of the President-elect Trump and the charges that were dismissed federally. Why? Mm-hmm. So what was the excuse then for Jack Smith requesting the judge dismiss the charges?
Jack Smith basically said the Justice Department does not prosecute sitting presidents, and Jack Smith issued a statement that said, "Look, I still believe in this case. I still think that we would have won. I think we've got a ton of evidence here." And this is it's a really fascinating point if you think about it. Because a couple points here. First off, what you had on November 5th may just be the largest jury verdict in the history of the country, right? The country voted on it, and whether you like that result, whether you don't like that result, whether you like Donald Trump or don't like him, whether you think he should be prosecuted or don't think he should be prosecuted, the American people decided he needs to be in the White House. And for the sake of the planet, for the sake of the country, Jack Smith is if you're asking Jack Smith, would say, okay, that is why I am doing this. I am not doing this, Mr. Trump, because I think you're innocent. I'm doing this because I think it's the best thing. Now, the other point here that I think is very, very important here too is uh, in the legal practice, okay, and anybody who's out driving around, hopefully still awake in Indianapolis after hearing me completely dork out, who's been through a court case knows this to be true, okay? When the court case is over, you don't get the big balloon drop and the confetti, and you don't get, like at the end of Star Wars when Chewbacca gives out his big laugh, right? You don't get that moment. There you go. Yeah, you don't get that big moment, okay? Everybody still hates each other, right? You have a very big contested custody battle. The loser doesn't go and say, well, you were right all along and I'm sorry and now let's all be friends, or if it's a criminal case and there's an accuser, right, and there's somebody who's on trial, when the case is over, if it's guilty or not guilty, the guilty guy just doesn't say, you got me, oh shucks, everybody still sticks to their positions, and there's a lot of hard feelings. That's what you're seeing with Jack Smith. Look, this is how court works. When the case is over, everybody still hates each other. And I wish there was a way around it, but that's just how these things work.
Hey, real quick before we let you go, I could sit in here and talk to you and ask you questions about the law all day long, commercial free, Counselor Rosenthal. Trust me, feel free to nerd out. But just real quick, in about 60 to 90 seconds, I don't know if we can sum it up, but the state cases with Alvin Bragg in New York, Fani Willis in Georgia, that's the falsifying of business records, or as you called it, the hush money thing in New York, and then the more election shenanigans in Georgia, and those waters are still muddied in terms of prosecution?
Very, yeah. So in Georgia, that thing is stuck in the mud. What happened there was that the Fani Willis was having an affair or something like that with one of the other prosecutors. Judge says you can stay on the case. They appealed that up. That's where that case is. So they are stuck in the mud on that issue. Now, eventually that's going to come back to that judge, and we'll see what happens there. I suspect it will be paused at worst for Mr. Trump in that case. The New York case, you're also in a real weird spot. The the jury has found him guilty, but the judge is saying, I'm not going to sentence you for 5 years. That case, I don't know that Trump can appeal that thing until that's over. And so, yeah, no, that's right. So that one, I mean, look, you have a similar thing going on, which is the prosecutors, the judge saying, okay, we're not going to undo an election here. But we're not going to let this thing go either. And really, I mean, look.
Are they going to try to put Trump in jail when he's like 83 years old and out of office?
Well, man, you know what? Look, I mean, it depends on, right? I mean, look, it's like, man, you made my taxes go up. You're going to jail. I don't know. Hopefully it's not that, right? You didn't deliver on this Social Security stuff, yeah, fine, but go with the bailiff. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, but
Mr. Rosenthal, Jeremy, legal expert, defense attorney in Texas, always a pleasure. You're welcome to nerd out on our show anytime, and have a great Thanksgiving. I hope it begins for you early this week, sir.
Well, thank you, sir. I hope so too, and go Hoosiers.
It's the Hammer and Nigel Show.